Can I pitch you guys a Papa Green theory, an original Papa Green theory?
Oh Christ!
Like a Brian Green theory?
A Brian Green theory, yes.
Okay.
So this man watched this movie alongside me, and when that point came up, he went, Catholic Church set it up.
Your dad owns.
And I was like, do you think it was an inside job? And he's like, yeah, they're getting those tithes.
The Conjuring was an inside job?
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Bathsheba.
And this week, we make a very bad real estate investment with The Conjuring. Before we visit the unluckiest family in Rhode Island, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter @TheBibleBoys. Yeah, I mean, this is The Conjuring. This is the film that started it all, even if it's not in the timeline. Michael, of course, you love this film, but Josh, how did you come down on it?
So, I watched this movie, like, a couple years ago. I actually watched Conjuring 2 first, and when I watched it the first time, it scared me so bad I couldn't sleep for, like, 2 days. On my second watch, I was able to just kind of appreciate the filmography. And this one, no spooks got me in this one. No spooks. It might be because I watched it with, like, a group of people, so that might be the reasoning. Last time I watched it completely alone. I like this movie. It's not bad. There's definitely some, like, moments in it. I'd rather not the Warrens become Catholic superheroes, but I don't get any of my wishes. So,
wait, you don't like them being Catholicism's The Avengers?
I hate the fact that there was a camera zoom in and fucking Ed Warren, the man, the myth, the con artist himself, looks into the camera and goes, I guess I'll have to do it.
Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about the Warrens. We'll get into it. But yeah, Josh, I think I had a similar experience. I mean, I was scared shitless, firstly. But, like, you know, I watched this in two halves. One last night, like, I watched the first half, like, on my bed with headphones in, like, trying to work on something, but also watching it in the corner, like, peeking through my fingers, like, terrified. And then I also watched it just now. I finished the last half, and I found the first half way scarier. Maybe it's just because I was watching with headphones, but we'll talk about it. But I think because I liked the first half more, I come down a little bit differently on this movie, but I won't say I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was a pretty good movie.
I just want to say, like, before we move off of that idea, Aaron, I think you're 1,000% right. When I think about the things that, like, I really, really enjoy about the movie, or the things that, like, stick with me, it is 100% that first half. The second the action, the shit hits the fan, I'm like, okay, here we go. Kind of paint by numbers.
So, I think I'll offer probably a, like, slight defense of it. I felt like the first half was more original and the second half was more homage. Like, to me, the second half feels more like a callback to one of our, last year's spooky season, The Exorcist. I actually think that this was, like, kind of a modern retelling of that, and I think the exorcism, like, choreography, I guess is what I will call it, is really well done. And so I am a, like, staunch defender of the second half of this film in a way that I'm not of almost any other film in this franchise. None of the films that come after this would have the tenor that they do without The Conjuring. Horror films were not having a scary moment. When this came out, it was, 2013?
It's 2013.
Yeah, like this like really revitalized the industry. This was a summer release, which is not super duper common for horror films. Like that tends to be like your Marvel movies and your blockbusters. But this film really like rethought, okay, what if we made horror scary without a ton of special effects and by using jump scares in creative ways? This film did not say let's like eschew jump scares by any stretch. But they're not your traditional, like, oh, we're just getting jump scares. It's also, coinciding with creepy music, this foreboding vibe that's going on throughout the film. The lack of safety during sunlight tends to also be one that really feels like an important callback here. That didn't quite exist as clearly before this film.
I just want to take a quick second and walk you through this movie's horror movie competition that year.
Yes.
I mean, The Purge, right, is one of them?
Yes, The Purge is one of them. Other than that, like, let me know if you have seen a franchise starter amongst these. We have Whir. Everyone remembers Whir. Mama.
I do remember that one.
All Hallows Eve. And then I love that they put this up here, the amazing horror movie, World War Z.
That's a horror movie?
You also have Contracted.
Mm-hmm.
And Oculus.
Mm-hmm.
So those were franchise starters right there. Every single one of them. Of course, The Purge, which were on like Purge 87. What if we didn't stop the Purge, baby? And like this did change how we look at horror movies, at least for the 2010s.
I think even into today, even though the franchise has gotten weaker as it's gone on, right? Like, I love The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. I really love Annabelle Creation. I liked Annabelle Comes Home. The rest I did not like. But I think it's super important to note that the Conjuring universe, we're starting strong with a throwback here of Michael's fun facts. It's the second highest horror franchise in terms of like what it's grossed ever.
Wow, what's number one?
Number one is the Godzilla franchise.
Okay. Hold on.
Yep. Yep.
We did it.
So, and that's, I feel like that's important to note because this film of the top group is actually one of the like smaller number of films. So like the Monsterverse in Godzilla. So Godzilla has 36 total films. The Conjuring has 8. So that's a pretty remarkable difference. And the worldwide box office is separated by about, let me see, 200 million. They're both clocking in at over 2 billion. So that's how successful the Conjuring universe has been.
Man, they both collectively made like one Marvel movie. That's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, for horror movies, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that was not a joke on The Conjuring. That's a joke on how media works right now.
Yeah, and how like Marvel just like prints money.
Yeah. But let's jump into the spooky. Let's jump into the spooky, boys.
Yeah, so we actually start the film with our protagonist, Annabelle. So, Aaron, what did you think about your first introduction to Annabelle properly? Like, imagine as a film goer, this is your first introduction to our girl Annabelle.
If this was the first time seeing this movie, I'd be like, oh shit, a creepy doll. My first note of this film is, great, this fucking doll is back again.
She's our Nick Fury.
Yeah, Annabelle
really
is really the connective tissue of this spooky season. So we check back in with the nurses that have the haunted Annabelle doll. And what I love about this is, like, this is one of the creepier parts of this movie of how they, like, shoot the doll and they frame all of these shots about these roommates talking about how shit's going on. We see the red crayons again taking center stage. We see the creepy notes. And the Warrens explain, hey, this doll is not haunted. This is not a nice little spirit. This is not your friend. This is a demon. And it wants to kill you. So we're going to go ahead and take the doll.
To which the three of us went, what? no. Are you serious? Ah.
I just really love the fact that the Warrens are like, oh, no. A ghost could not have this much power, you silly child. This is a demon. Now, the doll is a conduit, but the demon never possessed the doll. It is using the doll as a catalyst to get your soul. It's very much like, okay, these are fucking academic nerds. Like, all right, sure. They
did a little bit of theft there. Like, I wonder if I go to a Target and I'm like, whoa, guys, that Xbox, it's haunted. It's got a demon in that bad boy. Oh, what games you guys got back there? Yeah, just give me them all. They're all gay. They got chock-a-block full of demons.
Well, and what I love about how they portrayed the Warrens is, like, that's kind of who the Warrens were. Like, so they're both dead now, and I think that gives a little bit of runway to speak about them as people who were very unsavory. But one thing about the Warrens is that they viewed their job as demonologists as very academic and very, like, there are rules that govern demonic possession, hauntings, poltergeists, etc. The supernatural, like the natural world, is governed by rules, and these are the ones they follow. So I think that this film, and to a lesser extent Conjuring 2, stays very textual with who the Warrens were in that aspect of, like, they took their jobs very seriously. Now we can talk about whether or not they were con people and all of that, but it's inarguable that they took their job seriously.
Yeah, like Gwyneth Paltrow takes Goop seriously, right? That doesn't mean it's real.
Exactly.
But, like, we think we get that introduction to, like, how serious they take it. Like, they're giving these, like, academic talks at a college, like, lecture hall. And then we go back and, we see them put Annabelle in this glass case. And, we see the fucking, the room from A Cabin in the Woods, except it's just it's just in their basement. And it's just, like, everything in this room is haunted, cursed, or possessed. We just, like, have a priest bless it once a month, and it's fine. And my only note was, like, I want to see the Haunted Samurai Armor movie now.
There was also a stuffed toucan I gots to know.
And Toucan Sam, no!
Okay, we are introduced to our victims of this story, the Perrin family. This is Carolyn and Roger, and so they moved into an old farmhouse in Rhode Island with their 5 daughters. And then we see their dog Sadie has a problem with the house. She doesn't want to come inside. She's, like, feeling weird. And so, as someone who's always had animals around me, if an animal didn't want to go into a new space, I would instantly think something is weird. I don't know that I would go to haunting, personally. Like, I'm just kind of a skeptical person. That's not where I would jump. But I would be like, what's going on? Like, what's this animal smelling that I don't?
My brain would go to serial killer. There's a serial killer on the walls.
Yes, like, there's someone else in this house, because those stories happen more often than you think. People, like,
more often than ghosts.
Yeah, people, like, live in other people's attics for, like, 10 years. And they'll just never know.
I'm currently recording this from Aaron's attic. He still hasn't found me.
No, you're not. I don't live in a very big apartment at all. I would hear you, sir.
I'm a loud
Listen,
boy.
I'm not wealthy enough for somebody to stalk me in my own home. It would be like, oh shit, your kitchen, you can't cook anything in this kitchen. Fuck, I'm out. I'm gonna go haunt a richer person. This sucks.
So let's talk about Hide and Clap.
Hide and Clap is very good.
Hide and Clap
is a very good setup.
It's such a good setup for horror moments, and, like, it's so creepy. So it's your traditional hide and seek, except you stay blindfolded, and you basically, like, everyone gets 3 claps, right? Like, you are hiding in one spot, you clap, and that's supposed to help you locate someone by sound. This is, like, a really good, like, the power's out, you need to kill some time, and, like, want to have fun game. And I love that this is our introduction, because this is, like, Chekhov's hide and clap.
Chekhov's clap.
Yeah.
Chekhov doesn't like to talk about his clap. Let's be cool.
You're right. Let's be respectful. So one of the daughters actually accidentally finds a boarded up entrance to a cellar or a basement.
We gotta introduce the family.
You mean the 5 replaceable little girls?
Yeah,
now?
that's why I have it.
It's important to know that Roger is an X chromosome factory over there. Like, that's all he does is pump out X chromosomes. It's insane.
Well, and, like, we say the daughters are replaceable. There are 5 of them, and they really do move throughout the plot in differing levels. Just know that there's a gaggle.
Once you have more than 2 kids and you put them in a movie, I'm not going to memorize any of them. Unless
I remember
you're the
Nancy.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nancy's the one that stuck with me. I don't know why.
Couldn't pick her out of a lineup. I couldn't pick her out of the lineup of these 5 kids.
I remember how they get haunted, and I think that's interesting.
Yes.
But with this whole, like, boarded up room, it's in, like, a little, like, closet, and it's really, like, off to the side, and then the dad is like, get me some matches. And that's how he decides to look in the little hole. And that's also Chekhov's matches.
Yes, the matches also come up later. So they do find this basement that has, like, a bunch of just junk. Like, it looks like the family left, whoever lived in there before, left a ton of shit. And, you know, Carolyn's like, this place needs a lot of work. And Roger's like, this is so exciting. So we're really setting up Roger to follow in the footsteps of all the other men in this series and not be super helpful.
Yeah, men don't do shit in these movies.
Roger might be the least toxic man we've encountered so far.
Yeah, he does dumb shit, but, like, he only does dumb shit because I know I'm watching a horror movie. Like, I would have made the same decisions.
So Carolyn is a little bit worried because Sadie won't stop barking. One of the daughters is feeling someone pull at her feet in the middle of the night. And it's just, like, creepy shit. And she already, you can tell, Carolyn doesn't have good vibes about this house. She is not feeling great. And those bad vibes are really, really proven right the next morning when we hear a scream from outside and their dog Sadie is found dead.
That's how you know that this ghost doesn't survive this film, is because they do the writing thing that's where it's like, okay, if you make somebody, you want them to like your character, you have them save a cat. If you want someone to not like your character, you have them kill a dog. That's how you know Bathsheba's going to get hers in the end.
Yes.
Fuck Bathsheba.
And Carolyn actually has a bunch of, like, she has, like, random bruises, and I love the conversation of, like, what'd you do to me last night? Like, oh. And
because they do make love.
Yes. And, you know, they're just out to try what's one more kid? What's a 6th child in this house?
Let's get which will be another girl, because
Yes.
it has to be, mathematically.
They also do the thing where, like they said, like, you know, one of them feels a foot, like, you know, a demon tugging at their foot, but also they start, like, they're like, hey, why are you farting so much last night? It fucking stank. And, like, I love that because that's extremely sibling shit, just being like, oh my god, stop being so stinky. But that actually becomes a plot point, which rules.
All the clocks in the house stop at 3:07. And Carolyn remarks at that the next day as they, you know, before they find Sadie.
You beat me to it. Yeah, I was just about to mention. That is the only thing I think that, like, of the things that happened to them that night, other than the dog not wanting to go in, that I'd be like, we got a ghoul in here?
Yeah. If all my clocks are stopped at the same time...
It's an extremely bad sign.
Well, it's just a very unlikely coincidence, right? Like, I'm always looking for, like, strange coincidences, occurrences, things that, like, disprove, like, supernatural, right? It's why I tend to land on skeptic, is because most of these things can be explained. If every clock in your house stops at the same time and you're smelling sulfur, I'm sorry, that's just a demon. There's really nothing else.
A fun little game we can play as we continue through the plot. When would you have moved?
Huh.
Is anyone out there yet?
My dog being killed might do it for me.
I mean, that's a huge, like, oh, this neighborhood sucks. I don't care why, but I have to leave.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever be able to afford a house, so I'm sticking in here right now.
That's also a good point.
Yeah.
Houses are so expensive.
Did not pick a lucrative business plan.
They also bought this from the bank, right? Like, this house had been foreclosed, so this was nickels and dimes, but they're not getting much for it.
The actual villain of this franchise is the 2008 financial crisis, is what you're saying.
So, Carolyn also, let me see. So, Carolyn has her bruises, and so there's a lot of, like, weird shit going on.
There's also a bird.
Yeah, the bird that birds fly into the house and, like, break their neck. And it made me think for a minute, oh no, are we watching Hereditary? Thank God we're not.
Your hatred of that movie is very funny.
You know what it is? It's just, it was hyped so much as a movie I would love, and I watched it and went, like, C-.
Brutal.
Is this also when we get what I think is the spookiest bit in the movie? The ghost boy and the musical box?
That's the next scene.
That's the next, okay. Yeah, it's like coming
right
up.
My first note is like Rory, so I think we're here.
Yeah, so talk about Rory.
So as always, the youngest kid, one of them, isn't going off to school because I don't remember why. They give her offhand reason, and she tells her mom that she has a friend named Rory, and her mom goes like, "Oh yeah, kids always have imaginary friends." And then the little girl's like, "And if you look in this music box that I found outside and on the big old haunted tree, you can see him." And she lifts the little music box. There's this mirror that spins around and is really hard to see through. And the little girl's like, "You'll see Rory once the music stops." And then the music stops and the little fucking bastard of a kid scares her mom. Just a little, like, how to say words I don't say. That was mean.
That was uncalled so good.
I think it rules because it's like clearly like, oh, the filmmaker and knowing you're anticipating a jump scare, and then they're giving you a jump scare in the form of just like a little kid being like, "Boo, mommy." It's pretty good.
You're not safe when that scene ends, because then she's like, "Please, let's play hide and clap," because all my other sisters are mean to me and won't let me play.
You should probably talk to them about that.
Yeah, the bullying in this household's outrageous. And the mom agrees, and the mom hears claps from inside of the big haunted dresser.
Well, not only does she hear, we as the audience see these, like, old, creepy, like, gnarled hands coming out and clapping.
That is one of the scariest things in this movie.
This scared the fuck out of me, this whole sequence. Like, there's no jump scare in this entire sequence, but the whole, like, seeing the hands clap and, like, you know, the movement in the background and, like, knowing that there's something there and, like, her getting closer and closer and, like, her digging in the dresser to find it and being like, what was that? Because, like, she's like, "Mom, you took off your blindfold. You lose, silly mommy." And she's like, I saw a person here. What the fuck?
Yeah, because the daughter's hiding in a different room. Like, that's one of the best parts, right? Like,
yeah,
the daughter's like, "What are you doing in here?"
I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now, just thinking about it. It's so scary.
So, Aaron, did you have dreams of, like, someone just next to you?
No. I did actually have dreams, but about watching The Conjuring before we watched it. But that's just anticipatory fear.
I can't wait for there to be a fourth clap in the audio of this podcast.
I made sure to clap so quietly so it could very clearly not be that one. So yeah, that's the clapping is a really big thing. And one night, one of the other daughters is actually sleepwalking, and she's like banging her head repeatedly against that same creepy wardrobe that we saw. And I think that one's super important because it's the same one that we saw the hands come out of.
Yeah, they're ghosted that wardrobe.
Uh-huh.
I really like the whole daughter like banging her head against the wall because like they're just like, "Oh well, our kid just sleepwalks. That's totally normal." You know, it's weird that she hasn't done it in a couple years, but yeah, very strange. And like they do a whole thing where she's like pounding her forehead against the side of that wall, and like I don't like it doesn't really go anywhere. But like it is so creepy and weird just to see a little girl going thump, thump, thump. That like again, it just really, really good tension building.
Yeah, and that's what I think is done so artfully here is that the buildup of tension without any like clear release of a scare is so much better than when they cheapen it, right? And I like that this film is constantly, like, subverting what you think will happen, right? Like, when you hear the music box, you think, like, we're gonna see the big bad, but instead it's just the little girl. You think when Carolyn's, like, going through, you're gonna see the big bad. Guess what? No, you're not.
I've heard that technique of, like, the anticipation and everything referred to as scare blue balls, and that is the only thing that comes through my head when I think about that.
I mean, it is kind of like edging, right? Like, that's the point. Yeah. It's like getting you close and then not hitting the climax, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, Bathsheba edges.
God. Yes, she does. Well, and that brings us to Bathsheba, actually. So 2 of the girls are sharing a room, and they're the ones that have, like, been complaining about the smells. They've been complaining about having their legs pulled. And we get this scene of the girls being like, there's one of the girls saying there's someone there. Their door slammed shut. We don't see anyone yet, though. We just, like, are creeped out. Like, this one of the kids can see something that no one else can. And then, of course, everyone, like, rushes up, and we get our reveal of Bathsheba on top of the wardrobe. And it's so well done. This might be the scariest scene.
Here's the thing. I was scared shitless until I saw Bathsheba, and I was like, oh, this isn't that scary.
Well, and I think one thing that we should differentiate is this film is a very different experience if you're watching it well lit versus if you're watching it in the dark. So
for sure.
I've watched this film maybe 10 times now. And, like, if I watch it with all the lights on, this scene does not scare me at all. Like, okay, cool. It's a lady in makeup. If I watch it in the dark, this scene still, like, makes me jolt a little bit. And I know it's coming. I know what Bathsheba looks like. We see her in the light of day. And also very important, this was actually not done with effects. This was done with makeup.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, like, I thought, like, everything, like, them, like, freaking out, like, saying, like, there's someone behind the door. Oh, my God, there's someone behind the door. And, like, you know, the 2 siblings just, like, trying to figure out what's going on. Like, all of that tension building was really, really good. And then, you know, just the old lady sitting on top of the wardrobe, then, like, jumping on the girl. I was like, all right, well, you can't just beat up a child, Bathy.
Well, yes,
she
can.
Does.
Yeah, she does, actually. That's her whole deal.
I don't want us to miss the basement clapping scene.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Super important.
Yeah, just because that, like, the matches are there and everything.
Yes.
Take us away. It's got one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
Take us away. That one's so good. I don't know how I missed that one. That was so heavily used in promo.
It's when Roger left to do his trucking business, and he leaves all the girls, like, home alone because they've got to make ends meet. So it's just Carol and all of the 87 daughters. And I don't remember how she ends up there, but Carol ends up going towards the little crawl space into the basement.
So I think she is still playing, like, hide and clap, or, like, she hears the hide and clap, and she's, like, trying to follow the source. And there's a really, really good shot where, like, she hears the clap in the basement, and, like, the camera goes from her perspective and zooms into, like, the dark pointing downstairs. And then she flicks, like, the light on, and, like, that is the scare, but, like, it reverses the camera, so you're looking from the perspective of somebody standing at the bottom of the stairs up to her. And, like, I really liked that because, like, you were expecting something to come out of the darkness, but instead it's her turning the light on. I was like, that's really good.
And then the ghost WWE slams her down those steps and closes the door behind her. So she is in pitch black, stumbled down into the haunted basement, and can hear things around her. And she scrambles back up the stairs and grabs the box of matches that Roger left there. And she lights one up, and you can just barely see everything. She's trying to, like, kind of peer into the darkness. And this is when we get the, like, it's in the trailers. I think it's one of the best scares in the entire movie. Just a pair of hands clap behind her.
Very important, there's a whisper in a little kid's tone. Do you want to play hide and clap?
Yep. Yeah. It's the first time we hear Rory. It's really good.
It's so good. I think that might be one of the best scares in this. But again, I think so many of them are done really artfully.
This one is my favorite, and the reason is because, like, it sets up this scare in, like, it could happen so many different ways. And I thought, you think that, like, the hide and clap has already been paid off with, like, the wardrobe and all of that, but no, it's still here. And also, I think famous for my statement of, I just like it when ghosts are little scamps. And this is, like, when it's just being a little scamp clapping then. That's hilarious.
Yeah, this is like Bathsheba is, like, a little chaos demon, right?
Just fucking with her at this point.
Yeah. So they do go and get the Warrens. The Warrens are like, we're not really in the business of doing this, but, like, I guess we'll check it out. This is, like, where we get the idea that Lorraine is an empath beyond just, you know, someone who feels feelings, but she can actually, like, touch someone and, like, get a piece of their memory.
Here's where the movie starts to lose me. Because I was like, okay, it is fine for there to be one supernatural thing going on. Once you bring in fucking Lorraine Warren, you know, fucking psychic girl, then I'm just like, all right, because it, like, it says, you know, there's a whole sequence. I think this is the sequence where, you know, she, like, touches Carolyn and, like, sees that she had taken, like, this photo on the beach or whatever. And then she's like, oh, was that a good day at the beach? And Carolyn's like, how did you know that? And it's just like, all right, okay. This is getting less scary now that I know that psychic powers are canon in this universe.
Also, I have to rant about this. You might be thinking, oh, picture of the beach. Of course she understands it's at the beach. No beach is in the picture. No ocean is in the picture. It is a picture of them up, and all you see is them in the blue sky. It looks like they're floating in an abyss. Yeah. I do not believe they took that photo at the beach. I believe they took that photo at a park, and they lied to everyone that comes in their house.
Yeah, I think that'd be really funny if Carolyn's like, I just need these fucking demonologists to help me with this, so she has no idea what she's talking about, but you know what? They get results, so yeah, of course it was at the beach. How did you know?
Yeah, like, literally they're just yes-anding so they can get this demon out of here.
Yeah, they're like, someone help us.
I do love that, like, when we first see Ed Lorraine before they come help, they're debunking a ghost.
Yes.
At a different house, as if these people would debunk anything.
So they actually did. That was a, like, wild thing, is that the Warrens were pretty choosy about what cases they took on, and would often in interviews be like, yeah, most hauntings, most things that people think are hauntings are explainable. And that's, again, I kind of refuse to go into whether or not they really believed what they were doing or not, right? Like, I just don't think that that's a truly worthwhile exercise. I think what's more of a worthwhile exercise is looking into their practices. And, you know, the Perrin family has a beautiful tied with a bow Disney movie ending for this film, but in real life they don't. And that's what I'm more interested in. But the Warrens actually were kind of choosy about what cases they took on.
Yeah, they were choosing which ones made them the most money.
Got them. Is this where we get the Bathsheba lore dump?
Yes.
Okay, again, this is where I was like, this movie's getting less scary as it drags on.
This is significantly less scary.
Just touching everything she can get her hands on. Just getting more facts. It felt like in a video game where, like, you have to, like, go touch all of the objects that are glimmering.
Yeah. She touched all the ones with the little yellow exclamation point above them.
And they do walk in and they just are, like, they're like, oh yeah, it's probably not a ghost. And then immediately, everything that happens, they don't give, like, a normal explanation. They're like, yeah, things are rattling around. Well, that could be a demon.
Well,
it smells bad. That could be a demon, too.
Yeah, the smell of sulfur and the, you know, everything coming in threes, I think is just like a hallmark of demonology, regardless of what you think of that as a quote-unquote science. You have to believe in demons to believe demonology is a science, I think, but I think that that's just like traditional hallmarks. But as a family being haunted, wouldn't you lead with that?
Yeah, you gotta lead with, like, so there is a witch in my house.
Yeah, I saw an actual witch. There are bangings happening in threes, and it always smells of sulfur. My dog was murdered brutally.
Not to get too Dan Brown, did you guys also think the 307 had to do with Christian numbers?
Yes, obviously.
Okay. I didn't. What is your Da Vinci Code theory?
3 and 7 are both very biblical numbers.
Trinity and then 7.
Do with the divine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But both are seen as divine numbers, and I thought this was another one of the, like, they knock in 3 to mock the Trinity. Fun fact, demons are Unitarians.
That actually feels like it might be a Catholic teaching. Like, I don't know. That's one of those things I don't know for sure, but does seem plausible. If a priest told me demons are Unitarians, I would not be like, oh, really? Tell me where you got that. I would go, yeah, that tracks in your way of thinking.
The Unitarians are beneath the notice of the Catholic Church.
Hey, Universalist Unitarians, if you're out there, like, comment, and subscribe.
No, listen, I love the Universalist Unitarians, go off, but, like, the Catholics do not think about you at all. I'm sorry. We are much more concerned with those goddamn Lutherans.
Yeah.
And the gays.
And the gays, yeah.
Still. Mm-hmm. So then we actually get introduced in this moment to the real, true big bad of this film. Bureaucracy. So Ed and Lorraine are like, yeah, you need an exorcism. We got to go through a priest, and you got to get your kids baptized and start going to church, and then we're going to hear from the Vatican. And then once we get all the appropriate paperwork and zoning laws are acquired, we're going to perform an exorcism. Until then, good luck!
The only thing that makes me think this could be a true story is that detail, because it's like, of course the church would be like, oh, you gotta start, fucking coming to church every Sunday and paying us, putting your contribution in the basket every Sunday. Otherwise, you're just gonna be haunted. Sorry.
Can I pitch you guys a Papa Green theory, an original Papa Green theory?
Oh, Christ!
Like a Brian Green theory?
A Brian Green theory, yes.
Okay.
So this man watched this movie alongside me, and when that point came up, he went, Catholic Church set it up.
Your dad owns.
And I was like, do you think it was an inside job? And he's like, yeah, they're getting those tithes.
The Conjuring was an inside job?
Which brings me up, I remember they talked about it being an inside job with the demon house. Is the Catholic Church making people get possessed to get, like, boost their sales?
We'll try anything to increase numbers of confirmations.
I want a news title that doesn't involve children, please.
It could work. If I got possessed or someone around me got possessed, that would be a pretty big reason for me to go, guess I'm Catholic now, you solved my problem.
I was talking about this with my girlfriend, and I said that, like, one of the reasons that it would take so much for me to, like, agree that demons and ghosts were real is because then I'd have to become Catholic. Because if they got that one right, what else are they right about?
It turns out it's just the demon shit. Everything else is sort of just like, noble truths and golden rules.
The only thing they actually got right was that bread does become Jesus' body in your stomach. They don't know why.
We cannot talk about relics because that'll be a different podcast and I will lose my mind.
Yep. So let's go into something that's going to be important later because I have a larger conversation about this. Let's talk a little bit about Bathsheba's lore. So she had a baby. She killed the baby, proclaimed her love for Satan, and then killed herself. That's Bathsheba's story.
It's so tame. I mean, honestly, it's just like that. Oh, that's it. She, it elevate. I think the quote that made me be like, oh, Ed Warren's a piece of shit is like, oh yeah, witches love when you use God's creative power to honor Satan and like have a baby, which is God's gift to women, and then use it to sacrifice to Satan. It's just like, all right, Ed, like calm down.
And also, textually, that's not true.
Yeah,
textually that's the punishment.
It's actually the opposite. But whatever, dog. Maybe read Genesis again.
Would you guys like to know the real Bathsheba story?
In David.
No, about this woman who, like, they are actually basing this haunting off of.
Yeah.
So she was a woman accused of being a witch, and she was killed by the town. But it was because she was babysitting a baby that died.
Oh, so just SIDS, and then she got blamed for it.
Yeah, apparently it died due to, like, a sewing needle. But they don't give, like, a lot of context of what, like, where it went or how it got... Like, I think the baby might have just eaten one, and, like... It was terrible. It was the 1700s, though. Not saying that baby should have died then.
So what you're saying is justice for Bathsheba. This was an inside job. Bathsheba was set up, is what you're telling me.
I'm just saying, later the state government did pardon her much after she had died. Much, much later after she had died.
There we go. You can't do double jeopardy on Bathsheba. She's immune.
Yeah, so I think this is slander.
I do want to bring up that the Salon.com review of this movie did criticize this plot point, which is like, yeah, so the Salem witch trials, we all know that's bullshit, and it's very weird for this movie to be like, anyway, there was one witch that totally deserved it.
Well, and, okay, so I was going to save this for the end, but it just feels very relevant to the conversation. The Conjuring universe's relationship with women is, I think, one of the most odious things because it's textual, right? Like, all of the other things, like, there are no queer people in the Conjuring universe. There's, like, a lot of erasure and omission, right? We've spoken of their lack of diversity and how they handle diversity when they're given it. But the treatment of women seems to be perhaps the greatest through line in this story next to Annabelle herself. It's like Annabelle and toxic misogyny just hand in hand walking through every film. And this movie really lays it out, like, with the expectations of women as a mother, with the treatment of witches as actually worshiping Satan, with, you know, textualizing the Salem witch trials as being a real legitimate thing. Even changing the story of Bathsheba to, instead of being executed, committing suicide, which is viewed as, like, you know, a pretty cardinal sin. So I think that that's, like, a really important thing. And even how the protagonists are treated, right? Like, Carolyn is viewed and spoken as the weakest willed of the family, because demons always go after the weakest willed. We have, you know, we have Lorraine, who is suffers from what I like to call Jean Grey syndrome, which, if you ever watched X-Men, the animated series, Jean Grey would always faint when her powers could be helpful or useful. Every time Lorraine is, like, on the cusp of something, she faints.
That's a good point. I'm surprised she doesn't get, like, nosebleeds every time she does magic.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping she'd, like, Professor X put her, like, 2 fingers to her temple.
She puts on Cerebro to find ghosts.
Listen,
we're making a better movie.
With this exorcism, but I have to go to a very, very big room first.
Yeah. But I do think, like, that's just so important to note in this film. Like, I love The Conjuring as a horror film. I think that the greatest love you can give a media is to criticize it.
I don't want to push back, because I think you are correct. I think that, like, just to give a slightly non-disagreeing, but, like, moving it to the, like, right slightly of the viewpoint, like, I think these movies are not interested in character. They're not interested in depth of character. Everyone is painted as a caricature. And that's another fault that I find in the horror movie genre in general. Like, we're not watching people... Like, we're not watching the hero's journey. We're watching things happen to people a lot of times, I feel like, with these movies. And though, I'm trying to think back, up until, I think, the third Conjuring movie, no dude is possessed by a demon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie
That's
we've
no
seen
good,
has been
folks.
Yeah, a lady has been possessed in every single one.
Yep.
And I think it is partially due to what you're talking about, the idea of, like, women have 2 roles, and that's as perfect, beautiful saints, or
Madonna
witches.
Whore.
Yeah, they're Madonna whore. And men are there to be little goofy goobers in the background.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. This franchise is not a glowing endorsement of men, but
it might just be, like, every bisexual woman's taste. Like, witches and just doofy men.
Fair.
Which is why this podcast is so popular among bisexuals.
Yeah.
You got 2 doofy guys and a witch.
We'll let you figure out which is which. So,
like, comment, and subscribe if you're bisexual.
The Warrens get a police officer and another paranormal investigator in. They set up cameras. The clocks are not stopping at 3:07, and everyone's eating breakfast the next day, and they're all like, oh my god, yay, we're done. And Ed mentions that every time Lorraine uses her quote-unquote gift, because this is very wrapped in biblical language, it really impacts her, hence all the passing out. And during another night, the daughter begins to sleepwalk again, and the thermal temperatures observe a temp drop as she walks into the bedroom where the wardrobe is. And she actually walks inside the wardrobe and the doors slam shut behind her. And I think this is a really creepy scene, because it's like, is she gonna die?
All I could think was Narnia. That's the only thing. We've got the witch. We've got the wardrobe. Give me the lion.
Sadie was the lion. The lion is dead.
You both got so excited. You both started screaming, and I didn't hear a single word.
I would love this movie so much if just, like, there was, like, a very creepy shot of, like, somebody, like, shakily pushing through the coats, and then all of a sudden you see Mr. Tumnus just like, hello!
Can I get that edit, please?
The remix.
After they beat the demon, Aslan God comes down and he's like, Warrens, I gave you the approval for the exorcism.
So everyone runs upstairs. They find a secret passage behind the wardrobe. Lorraine enters inside and falls through the floorboards into the basement. And she sees the spirits of people that had been possessed by Bathsheba. And she realizes Bathsheba's been possessing mothers to murder their children. And so I led up with this with a question of, in the Conjuring universe, witches worship the devil, right?
Or demons, yes.
Okay, well, that's my next question. Because possession, we've been told that possession is way out of a ghost's wheelhouse, right?
You're correct.
So, did Bathsheba, as a reward, ascend to demonhood?
Yup. That's exactly what happened.
But here's my another question, because every time they mention demons, every single time in this franchise, they say this is not a being that walked the earth.
Right.
So it's very strange to me that, like, is she the one exception? Did she got a demon partner that helps her out? Is
she
the nun
get grandfathered
all of the screens? Yeah. Like, used to ghosts could do this, but now they're all millennials and they don't get off their asses to possess people.
Oh, the ghost gig economy is just a nightmare for all involved.
I just think the ghosts need to get back to work.
I think that you're right, Michael. I think that just based on what is in this movie, we should know that, like, they said, okay, they think it'll elevate them in the eyes of Satan. And if only demons can cause this much damage, therefore Bathsheba was rewarded by Satan and became a demon.
And that's a really interesting thing, right? Because, like, biblically, there's a set number of angels and demons. So I like the heretical teachings of the Conjuring universe.
Do you guys want to know the old historic definition of what a witch was?
Sure.
It is a woman who interacted with the devil. So, like, you could have given him, like, sugar as he was going by, and, like, because his pie wasn't going to be ready in time. And they'd be like, yep, that counts.
Interesting. So don't give the devil sugar.
Never.
So
no matter what he asks, if you want to live deliciously.
Too late. So Lorraine escapes the cellar, and she and Ed are like, we're going to organize an exorcism now. And they send the family to a hotel, finally. Which, how did this first, like, occur to them now? But also, they mentioned specifically earlier, you can go anywhere, but this dark spirit's going to be hanging around you. So
yeah, none of this makes sense.
I mean, it kind of comes up here in the next scene where the Warrens like see their daughter in the water, and Lorraine's like, oh no, something bad is about to happen. And like this part also, it starts to fall apart for me. I think the marital drama of the Warren household is very distracting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they try to like make it a stronger plot point rather than realize it doesn't work. And I think that is really a failing of this franchise, because I think if this were the beginning and end of it, it would be fine. But that is the entirety of the plot of the third film.
Oh no, I'm glad we're not watching that then.
Yeah.
It's very bad. Quick things just to wrap up some plot points that we talked about before. 307 is important because that is when the witch killed herself. And so she just really likes that number still. And that there had been multiple possessions of, I think you already said, mothers killing their children around the property because the witch cursed anyone that would live on their land. So, yeah, she is trying to end home ownership.
Yeah.
Like the liberals today.
So Carolyn drives back to the house with two of the girls. Ed and Lorraine are like, we gotta go.
We also have to mention a very scary scene that happens leading up to this. And that is Lorraine outside on a very sunny day with the laundry.
Yes.
And she's helping dry the laundry. Because the Warrens kind of come in and are like, we're going to do all the chores that you've been putting off. And I wish they really
They're
basically
this Mormon household. Missionaries. Like, what can we do to help you and also convert you?
Yeah, it's Queer Eye with the ghost guys. And she has this, like, the dark clouds roll in, and she sees Carolyn up in her bedroom, and then the sheet in Lorraine's hand rips out of her hands and stops, covering someone in like the old cartoon ghost. Mm-hmm. And then the sheet kind of goes off into the wind, and then you see a figure up in that room with Carolyn, and it's just good. It's just good.
And then we get the possession scene right there.
Which, as we know, possession is transmitted through fluids.
Yes.
That has been well established.
Yeah, I feel like that's now like overarching in two different spooky seasons over the course of several different films. Like, we've just established that.
Yeah, wear a condom, guys. You don't want to get ghosts.
So Carolyn is possessed.
Yes, and she was like covered in bruises before, and so then she steals her children.
Yes, and they find Carolyn as she's trying to stab one of the daughters with a pair of scissors. They try to take Carolyn out of the house, but then she is like visibly in pain, and Lorraine's like, hey, if we try to take her out of the house, she's gonna die. So maybe let's not do that. And Ed is like, all right, let's call the priest. And Lorraine's like, how about no? He's too far away. She's going to die. And then that's when Ed does his whole, I'll do it.
He picks up the hammer. Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. And then, like we were talking about earlier, this is the part where I feel like the movie just becomes more of an action film. And like you were saying, Michael, it is kind of an homage to The Exorcist specifically. And they do some pretty neat twists on it. Like, they tie Lorraine or Carolyn up, and like they have to like wrestle her into a chair and like put a sheet over her head, and what's his name, Ed starts doing the rite of exorcism in Latin, and like there's a part where he's like, reveal yourself, and like her face bursts out of the sheet. Like, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. And there's another sequence where like in The Exorcist the bed floated. In this one, her chair lifts up off the ground and then turns upside down, and that's really cool. I thought there were some good bits, even if I didn't think this was like especially good scary stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it's scary, but I think it's, again, well choreographed.
Mm-hmm. Also, the subplot of one of the little girls, it's like they can't find her in the house, so they have their partner intern. The dude seems like he's like in college. Also, the only non-white person I could find in this movie.
Yep. The only one.
He's running around trying to find this little girl. It's a little strange that like they spent so much time with him trying to find her. And also you have the bumbling, useless cop who came in with a shotgun, which is literally Chekhov's gun.
It's very funny because earlier they're like, hey, you can't shoot ghosts. And then that gun does get used against them, which is very good.
Yes.
Yeah, he sucked throughout this entire movie. I wish they had given like they hinted at like a buddy cop with him and the ghost intern guy. And like they hint at those two like getting closer as one of them like believes in ghosts, the other one's like, this is all bullshit. And they just didn't do anything with it. I feel like you could have cut that character.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Not
that's
needed.
more to show that, like, you know, cops are not who you call in a situation like this, which, yeah, can't say I'm going to call a cop if there's a possession.
You called the church.
Obviously. So they're all rushing to find Carolyn because the intern yells down that he found the missing daughter, and then Bathsheba's like, great, that's what I'm here for. And she goes to try to kill her. And then, let's see, Carolyn finds her and grabs a hold of her, and then Lorraine uses her superpowers, because let's be real, the true, like, savior of this is not Ed's exorcism, it's Lorraine's empathy. Which I think is an interesting plot point, and I think it could be done well. It does just kind of feel like superhero shit.
Could you imagine if they replaced the empathy with, like, really good archival knowledge? Like, these people are just, like, college librarians, and they're like, oh, I know which book you need to read about that to understand witches.
Well, and instead, what we get is Lorraine putting her head on possessed Carolyn, saying, remember that day at the beach and how happy you were.
Which I really wish we had stuck with our version where it's a lie, and then Bathsheba's like, yes, another lie to fuel me, and then killed the kid. That would have been great.
I don't know that would have been great, but that works. And then, you know, the demonic presence is gone, and she's back. And here's the thing. If I were that little girl, I would never trust my mother ever again.
Yeah, she's going to have to work that one out in therapy.
Yeah.
It's the 70s. I don't know how much therapy she's going to be able to receive.
Nope, she's going to be pumped up on drugs.
Or worse, the church.
Both. So yeah, then like everything's back to normal. The family's all celebrating. They know it's over. And the Warrens go back home, and we get a scene of the possessed objects room. Ed places the music box there, and Lorraine is like, come on, let's go. And then after the last scene is the music box starting to play and the camera panning very, very slowly to it. And it comes to a stop, and then the credits roll. And that's the film.
I got a question for you boys. So, the idea of this music box being the thing causing the possession, I don't really feel like was ever a thing.
Oh, disagree. It's about Rory.
Okay, so they took Rory, because Rory was never bad.
No. This is another case of... I actually found this incredibly clear, obviously, seeing as I'm explaining it like this. I found it like how the demon uses the Annabelle doll and says, I am a little girl named Annabelle, who we know now was a real person who did get possessed by a demon, right? Mm-hmm. Bathsheba is using, like, Rory's spirit as a, like, hook to get them to trust her and let her in.
Oh, so I did not pick up that at all.
Yeah, so it's not Rory at all. She's using Rory. So, like, I think that's pretty explained textually when we get the creepy hands rather than Rory. We get the disembodied voice of Rory, but then we get the Bathsheba's hands clapping in the scene in the basement.
I thought what was going on is, like, Rory was trying to get the little girls to hide in his little hidey spot. Because remember, they say that that's where he hid from his mother. Mm-hmm. And I thought that, like, he was getting her to hide there away from the demon.
Nope. Because that led straight to the basement, and that's where Bathsheba wanted to do, like, her ritualistic killing.
I see. I think... Because I thought with this that... I was like, are they really collecting haunted objects at this point? Or they just think it was, like, spooky?
I do want to touch very quickly on the end quote that plays over that haunted object room. So it's by Ed Warren, and it says, diabolical forces are formidable. These forces are eternal, and they exist today. The fairy tale is true. The devil exists. God exists. And for us, as people, our very destiny hinges upon which one we elect to follow. This film is Catholic propaganda.
Kind of. There's also something really fun that I was reading today that as of this year, the Conjuring house is being sold for $1.2 million. So you can live in the Conjuring house.
That's why, boys, I never said I would tap out. I would still be living in that house if I was those people. If I went through that exact thing, I would not have moved.
That's true. People love to pay money for haunted houses.
Yeah, I mean, I would. My first thought was, how much was it?
My sources from the Ghoul Boys, there are about 87 Raggedy Ann dolls in that house currently.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
They have a Raggedy Ann in, like, the Warren case that says, like, absolutely under no circumstance open, just as, like, a coffee table.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have Raggedy Ann dolls, like, in every single room, because they're like, oh, this is the Conjuring house. Like, they have leaned into it.
Yeah, they've leaned very heavily into it.
I thought it was going to be like a Horcrux thing where Annabelle split her soul into 87 fucking little soft dolls.
No, Annabelle's in every Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, there's a tiny piece of her in all of them. Yeah, so the house is being sold. Apparently, also, the Perrin family did go back to the house and live streamed it.
We have to go back.
Yeah, and it was the first time they had gone back. It was a 3-day live streamed Halloween event, and they are actually going to share all about their experience there. And yeah, so unfortunately, like, their story just did not end as peacefully. So what ended up happening is one of the daughters wrote a memoir, and she said that her mother was attacked by some sort of, like, demonic entity. Her chair began to levitate, and then she was thrown from the dining room to the parlor, and apparently her mother has no memory of the incident, but the rest of them do. But she did, like, get treated medically for it. And yeah, the Warrens really didn't help very much.
I believe that.
They were politely asked to leave.
They actually were. Roger told them to leave. And the family moved, and there's really no resolution. Like, at some point, they theoretically got done being haunted, but this one's kind of like a cold case, which would make a much less interesting movie, as if we ended with, well, we tried, no one's dead, so all's good.
The fact that they were asked to leave makes it even more hilarious that this movie makes a point of the family being like, we're so glad you're here. Mm-hmm. It's just everything's better since you guys got here.
Yeah, it really sucks that they're like, this family's trauma has improved our marriage.
Well, and okay, here's the thing. They did that partially because they didn't want to get sued. So an author...
They still kind of did.
Yeah, they got sued several times. The author of the book, The Demonologist, which is about Ed and Lorraine, actually sued Warner Brothers and James Wan about the film. He said that he had an exclusive contract with the Warrens, and they ended up settling with him out of court. But I have to assume that part of the reason that they took such a warm, fuzzy view of the Warrens is first to give the audience a protagonist, and second to keep an infamously litigious couple from suing them. Because these two love to sue people. Just like, cool. We're very into suing people. But like I said, they're both dead, so... but yeah, they've done a lot of things that end up being turned into movies. The Haunting in Connecticut is another film that's loosely based on their events. There's the trial of Arnie Johnson, which ends up being made into The Devil Made Me Do It. That is the infamous Devil Made Me Do It case where a man testified in court that the devil made him murder someone.
Okay.
There are so many things about that court case that I would love to discuss with you guys, but I will not watch that movie in order to do so. All I will say is that the family is divided on whether or not that man, actually did it or a devil made him do it. The parent, he's married to, the family's daughter, and the rest of the family is like, oh, he just killed a guy.
Yeah.
Look up the case, don't watch the movie.
Yes, agreed. So unless you guys have anything to add, I think we should get into our ratings.
All right. I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it 1 ghost labor shortage. Just get out there and work for those minimum wage ghost jobs.
I'm going to give this the 10th Station of the Cross. Jesus is stripped of his garments because, I was split on this movie, but I think the end result was pretty good.
I'm going to give this film 3 out of 4 claps.
Very good. So I guess we're doing Conjuring 2 next week?
Yeah, next week we're rounding out with a film that I think is as scary, but perhaps more evenly paced.
Good.
And I disagree.
Oh. You don't think it's
Okay.
as scary, or you don't think it's as evenly paced?
I do not think it's as evenly placed. I adore you, but I think you have removed 30 minutes of this film from your memory.
Oh, the last 30 minutes. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
No.
There's 30 minutes in this film. It's actually the last 45 minutes. The last 15 wrap up pretty quickly, but there's 30 minutes in there where it's like, Jesus Christ, just do the ghost stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll
Listen,
get into that
endings are
later.
hard. It's difficult. I get it, James.
How have you guys been enjoying our book club, which is Midnight Mass?
Haven't started a single episode.
Me
That's fair.
either, but I plan to the week before we do it.
Same here. I plan on finishing Squid Game tonight and then watching Midnight Mass.
Well, I've been loving it. If you've already watched it, go ahead and tweet at me, because I'm ready to talk about how unbelievably hot that cop was. Oof.
ACAB,
Great,
even the
good.
hot ones.
Michael, you haven't seen him yet. He's got a mustache and everything.
Well, when we're not thirsting over our boys in blue, where can people find our other great opinions on the internet?
I am at Green History on Twitter.
I am probably thirsting over people at Michael's Diamonds on Twitter.
I'm at AaronSXL on Twitter. You can find the other podcast I do at Mortified Pod. Me and Layla just released an episode on the Death Note live action movie, which sucks shit, and the Death Note musical, which owns, which was very fun to talk about.
There's a Death Note musical?
Yup, it kicks ass, kind of.
Wow.
Wow, okay. I'm not caught up on my Mortified.
Yeah, it just came out, so check that out. Also, in the spirit of spooky season, I released a tabletop game. I Adjure You, Ancient Serpent. It is directly inspired by Exorcism, and it's free on Itch.io. I'll put a link in the show notes, but if you are at all interested in tabletop games, you can play through an Exorcism movie with your friends. I made it, so I recommend it.
It is very good. I was reading through it, and I'm very excited to play it one day.
But yeah, looking forward to getting done with spooky season. Only 2 more episodes, but it's been a good time, and I do appreciate Michael introducing me to good movies. It's nice.
Hey, there was only one bad movie in the bunch, and I'm going to stick with that even with next week.
Well, listeners, if you are sobbing, tearful, just can't control yourself because you're so sad you won't be able to hear us until next Wednesday, just keep in mind that it is okay to cry because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.